Ah, there you are. Give me a moment to find my place here. Here we are. Sorry, I don't have any snacks or hot chocolate today, I'm afraid. You ponies go through my stash like parasprites on a hungry day, I swear. Anyways, today's story is... well, to be fair, I'd brace myself for an incredible amount of cuteness. Like, no, seriously. You may get adorabeatus from how adorable this story is. It's a delight for me to read, and it simply continues to prove that love doesn't really have any bounds. It is, and it goes where it wants. I can't really formulate my thoughts on this one. It's too cute. Let's get started, shall we? Hearth's Warming Surprise by Animan. It was a calm, snowy day at the capital city of Canterlot. The streets were filled with ponies striding to and fro with friends and family, enjoying their hearths warming. The dim sunlight seeping through the soft curtain of clouds, coupled with the happy ringing of bells and caroling ponies, made this cold morning a beautiful one indeed. But it wasn't an ordinary hearths warming morning, oh no. It was also the 7th Pony Changeling Alliance anniversary. The two races had been enemies for years, but after long negotiations and several treaties, the two kingdoms finally came together in peace and harmony on this winter day, giving the biggest present their people could ever receive. To celebrate such a wonderful day, the Changelings built beautiful arches throughout the city, mistletoe hanging on top of each and every one of them. And right in the center of the city, an enormous hearth-warming tree was decorated with colorful lights, made by the ponies and enchanted glowing gems by the changelings, a sign of the mixed traditions and unity of the two races. In the residential district of the city, Ancient Scroll, the librarian of the Canterlot archives, ran frantically around his house, checking if everything was in order before he left to spend the day with his mare friend. The light gray unicorn trotted through his kitchen and laundry room, locking the doors with the dark purple aura of its magic. Locks checked. Leaving the laundry room, he went to the living room to check on his white dove in a pet cage. "Hey there, Archimedes. You have enough food and water for the day, buddy?" he asked, looking at the small bird. Making a big, happy splash in his little bathtub, the dove tweeted in confirmation. "Okay, good." Climbing the stairs to his room, Scroll gave one last brush to his coat and styled his violet mane. Once satisfied, he walked to his bed and sat next to a tiny present box that was lying on it. Levitating it to meet his gaze, he let out a heavy sigh and thought, "I hope she'll like it." With the box in his hooves, he got out of bed, grabbed his keys, and left his house. At the opposite side of the residential district, a changeling drone was making the final adjustments to her house decorations before her cult friend's visit. Her body shivered in the chilly weather as she hanged the last hearth-warming lights around her living room. Being creatures accustomed to the high temperatures of the Badlands, changelings had a pretty hard time keeping up with the cold of winter. Finishing her job, drone CD042, or Mending Heart, grabbed a piece of firewood and fed it into the flames in the fireplace.
"Oh, by the Queen Mother, it's cold today,"
she thought, shivering again. Now, just a bit warmer, Hart finished placing all her decorations and sat on the sofa to wait for her cult friend. She took a quick glance at the corridor leading to her room, where she had prepared a surprise for Ancient Scroll.
"I hope he'll like it,"
she thought in worry. A couple of minutes had passed while Hart waited for her cult friend. She was doing one last checkup of the surprise in her room when she heard the doorbell ring. She shot out of her room and went straight for the door, eager to see what the evening with her cult friend had in store for her. She opened the door with her emerald magic, revealing her cult friend Scroll holding a giant bouquet of red roses in front of him. A thin sheet of snow covered his coat and scarf, but he gave her a large and a little frozen grin. "Hey, honey. Happy hearthwarming." With the biggest smile, she took the bouquet with her magic and kissed her cult friend on the cheek, eliciting a bright blush on his face.
"Aw, thanks, Scrolly. This'll be a great dessert for the soup I made. Please come in."
She beckoned him inside with a hoof. Ancient Scroll walked inside, closing the door behind him and shaking off the snow, using his scarf as a towel to dry the excess water from his fur. "How was your day at the inn, honey? Had many customers?" he asked, putting his now soaked scarf on the hanger by the door. Tossing another log to the fire to ward off the cold, Mending Hart replied,
Not really. The inn was pretty empty. Most of my changeling friends had returned to the hive to pass the winter, so I took the opportunity to make inventory for next year. And you? How was the library today?
It was pretty empty, as usual. I spent most of the time writing some new spells. Sometimes I miss Miss Sparkle. She gave me a lot of work, but at least she kept the library alive. Scroll replied, following Hart to the kitchen to help prepare the table for lunch. The two continued chatting as they brought more and more food to the dining table, but something seemed off to Ancient Scroll. Mending Heart was avoiding making eye contact with him, and her wings would buzz from time to time. "You okay, Hart?" he asked, worry clear in his voice.
What do you mean?
She responded, her wings buzzing once more. "You're nervous about something," he said, raising an eyebrow.
What the? No, I'm not. Why would I be?
She blurted out, forcing a laugh. Even a baby changeling larva could fake a laugh better than that. Not buying it for a second, Scroll decided to finish it off. "Your wings are buzzing." At that point, her wings were buzzing so much that she was almost hovering above the ground. She stopped her translucent appendages, and Mending Heart took a deep breath and confessed with a sigh,
I wanted to ask you something.
Noting a small shiver running down Hart's body, Scroll remembered the difficulties changelings had in the cold. Giving her a smug grin, he offered, "Oh, you want to snuggle to keep off the cold like we used to, don't you?" A bright green blush rushed to her cheeks at the suggestion. Yes, she liked to snuggle. Probably a bit more than what doctors might call healthy, but that wasn't the case. Well, at least not fully.
Well, yes, I'd like to, but that's not all of it. I have a surprise for you.
Scroll tilted his head to the side in confusion a little, escaping his mouth.
Follow me, please.
Hearth beckoned him with a hoof. Leading him to her bedroom, Mending Hart opened the door to reveal all the furniture pushed aside, making space for two arcane circles connected to each other in the middle of the room. Ancient Scroll was amazed. The spell's complexity seemed way higher than the average teleportation or transmutation spell, but it had some similar glyphs to them. "Amazing. What spell is it?" he asked, his gaze glued to the runes as he tried to decipher them.
Well, you see, back in the hive, all changelings share what ponies tend to call the hive mind, a simple connection between changelings. We use it to communicate and coordinate our collective efforts. But there's another level to it. The more intimate couples would use this spell to synchronize with each other, sharing not only their thoughts, but their emotions and feelings, too.
Hart explained, pawing at her fluffy carpet with a hoof. "Incredible," Ancient Scroll whispered in awe. Hart raised his head with a hoof so they could make eye contact.
I've always said I can see how much you love me. Being a changeling, I experience love in a lot of different ways, and I want to share that with you.
Scroll's eyes went wide in realization. "She wants to synchronize with me?" Noticing his surprise, Hart asked in worry.
You don't want to?
Shaking his head wildly, Scroll quickly answered, Yes, I'd love to, of course." A huge weight was lifted from her shoulders, her worries flying away, replaced with pure happiness.
Oh, thank you.
Hart gave him a big hug, kissing him again and again, covering his face in quick pecks. Calming herself, she proceeded to explain the spell.
Alright, so the spell is actually pretty simple. The hardest part was finding a good glyph that could translate my changeling magic to your unicorn magic. All you have to do is stand in that circle and light up your horn. I'll do the rest.
Nodding, Ancient Scroll went to his designated location and did as he was told. The glyphs surrounding him powered up with his magic, projecting an ethereal copy of themselves. The projections began to spin around him, faster and faster, creating a small vortex. Mending Heart's horn lit with her emerald aura as it fed into the arcane circle, a small stream of her magic turning into Scroll's purple aura as it passed through the vortex and seeped into him. A few seconds later, the glyphs went out and the spell was complete. Feeling no change at all, Scroll said, I feel normal.
The spell takes some time to sync all the senses, but if it worked, you should be able to hear my thoughts now.
Hart's voice echoed in his head. Scroll's eyes went wide a second time at that. The spell worked. This is awesome, he exclaimed in his mind. But now that the spell was done, what should they do? So how long does it take for the spell to complete?
Only a few minutes. Why don't we eat dinner while we wait?
Hart offered, her stomach giving a low grumble. Their dinner was nice and silent. Not a single word left their lips, but their thoughts were a mile away in conversation. After finishing dinner and enjoying some nice roses as dessert, the two lay together on the sofa as the spell's effects began to show. Wow, Scroll thought as he felt a small jab in his head. The headache was promptly ignored as he noticed a second feeling of the same headache, but it felt far, like it wasn't his own. Hart noticed a tiny hint of green in Scroll's usually light blue eyes.
I think the spell is complete,
she thought to him, pinching her old leg with her magic. Scroll recoiled at the pinch, confirming that the spell was indeed complete. Throwing one more piece of firewood onto the hearth, Mending Hart mused.
So, about that snuggle you offered earlier?
Grinning, Ancient Scroll sat up straight on the sofa and opened his hooves, offering her a hug. Mending Hart sat on his lap and buried herself in his arms, resting her head on the crook of his neck. Her wings fluttered in happiness, and her eyes closed in blissful peace. Through her heavy eyelids, she could see the projection of Scroll's vision as he admired her wings, the soft last rays of sunlight dividing into a whole rainbow of colors spread through the chitinous membranes. Scroll could feel the scent of his own cologne as Hart took a deep sniff on his chest, his mind filling with her thoughts as for how much she loved his perfume. He tightened the hug, feeling her carapace give way to his caress, a fact that surprised him when they first snuggled. He learned that the otherwise hard changeling chitinous plating softened when a changeling felt more relaxed and comfortable, making them just the softest snuggle buggies. The silly pet name earned him a chuckle from Hart. Hart lowered her head even more, her ears caressing his chest so she could hear his heartbeat. Such a melodious song. The beats echoed in his own ears, as his heart slowed down a bit to beat at her heart's pace. As their hearts danced together, he could feel a sweet taste at the back of his tongue, getting stronger and stronger. Raising his head so he could see what it was, his eyes widened as he saw a strong pink aura surrounding Hart. Noticing his reaction, she drew back a little, allowing him to see what she wanted to show him for such a long time. The pink aura danced around them like the northern stars, as a small bridge connected her aura with his own. He needed no explanation of what it was, for he knew exactly what it meant. It was the love they shared with each other. Such an amazing and beautiful sight made him wonder about his own surprise that he had had in store for her. It's going to be hard to match this.
What?
Mending Hart asked out loud, tilting her head to the side quizzically. Oh, crap. Ancient Scroll forgot she could hear his thoughts, and he recoiled against the sofa's back, almost flipping the whole thing over.
What do you mean it's gonna be hard to match this?
Hart asked, pinning his body against the sofa so he wouldn't get away. There was no point in hiding it now, not that he could, connected to her like that. I actually also have a surprise for you, Scroll replied in defeat, reaching into a hidden pocket in his scarf with his magic and bringing forth the small present box. You see, we've Spent almost 5 years together now. I've never been happier. And now I know for certain that you are too, so... Scroll tried to explain, his words getting stuck in his throat. Mending Hart tore away the fancy white and golden wrapping paper, and she opened the tiny box, only to freeze at what she would find inside. Will you marry me? He finally managed to ask. The box contained a black gold engagement ring. Its shiny surface was encrusted with tiny emeralds, accompanying a big amethyst at its top. Its serpentine design made it look like it had tiny holes on the rim. It was the union between the fancy and shiny designs that ponies loved so much and the simpler, more discreet design that the changelings grew accustomed to. Mending Hart stood there in shock, a whole palette of colors emanating from her aura. It went from red to orange, from yellow to green, from blue to purple, as her emotions boiled within her. Then, finally, it landed on pink. The aura shone brighter and brighter, shining more than a full moon in a clear night sky as a single tear ran down Hart's cheek. She lunged herself into Scroll's chest, her hug so tight that he could swear he broke a rib.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Mending Hart rambled on and on. Before Scroll could even react, his lips were sealed in a deep kiss. Their auras joined together as well, turning almost into a beacon so every changeling in town could see and celebrate the new couple. The tears ran freely from her eyes as Hart broke the kiss and gave him another loving hug.
I love you, Scroll.
I love you too, Hart. Ancient Scroll hugged her back, shedding a tear of his own. There were no more words that needed to be said.